This nibble originally aired on RSBANDB Update 752, The Cadence of RuneScape's Future. Enjoy. The content landscape between bank placeholders and Anachronia was dry, so the question that I want to know on this is, could you give a bit of a timeline surrounding Anachronia, its release, and what was supposed to happen, and what might an alternate August and September have looked like?
Let's do it. There is part of me that's kind of like, I can't think of a game that reveals its production schedule, but let's do it. So it kind of starts with Complicate rework for me.
All right.
So, obviously we've been working on Anachronia, and actually Anachronia hit very few road bumps. So actually Anachronia came out when it was meant to, and I think we had some outsourcing issues with a vendor that we were using for animations, and that was it. Like, it got delayed a week, and even then we hadn't announced the release date, so it didn't feel like a delay. We got Anachronia, and that was good. But Complicate rework was the first time that we started seeing issues. So we allocated a bit of time to chat to players about it. But as you probably know from how it came out, like there was probably a 50-50 split on whether it was too complicated, and whether or not this is what actually people wanted. So we were in this position where players were a bit kind of polarized on it. And then also from a kind of senior exec point of view internally, there was a lot of concerns that we were overcomplicating our game as well. So I was getting noise from the players and a lot of noise from internally that something should probably be done about it. So we kind of made our decision to simplify it a wee bit. But through all of the talking, all of the changes to the design documents, and the redesign by the end, actually we'd come out with a smaller project that had probably double the amount of time spent on it than if we just gone out and made it, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, because I can count 2 or 3 different iterations of it, and from the players I was talking to, it didn't get sold to them until they saw the flashy pictures of it on a live stream of what it could potentially look like.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I'm still a fan of that initial design. I would love to. There's still an opportunity for it to come in, but So effectively, what got delivered was half the update for double the time, as it were, and also it didn't really have anything to play through when the initial design had new things to play, new things to earn. So that was the first kind of thing where it started feeling like the release schedule was getting slighter and slighter. And then we decided the weapon diversity and bank, when we announced them, that they were so core to everybody's routine that we had to make sure that they were right, that these were good. And so we knew that we wanted to do what we did with mining and smithing, and to a degree Complicate rework. Want to make sure it's transparent, do betas, go on live streams all the time, sit on Discord, that kind of thing. And then we hit the other problems. So bank wasn't too bad in that it kind of expanded a little bit based on beta work. And doing a beta, I don't think people quite realise how much work it can take to create this offshoot server, monitor it, get all the feedback, test it to make sure it's got everything it needs, that kind of thing. But weapon diversity was the biggie. Like, we put it out first. I don't know if you remember, it had, I think it was 14 weapons.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it started off with 14. The theory being that that actually we wanted to see whether or not it would work. It's this kind of thing. Like, do we go all in with something so big? And obviously we also wanted to maintain a certain content cadence because we learned from Menaphos. So we didn't want to just, spend double the amount of time to produce something with 28. I guess in hindsight, we should have realised what the player sentiment would be, which is stop batching things, Jagex, thank you very much. Which, to be honest, has been feedback we've been given several times before. But then you look at things like bank placeholders, and people wanted that independent of the full rework,
right?
Largely. So the whole batching thing is a more complicated conversation than I think people really account for.
Well, look at Invention. I mean, we love both batches of that. So that's a weird one too.
Yeah, you can probably give examples, probably more examples where batching didn't work than did. But
yes, that's fair.
And I mean, if you talk to most players, the bank rework to them was placeholders.
I had said that all along.
But if you look at mining and smithing, we just followed a very similar model. We polled whether or not to just take high level stuff out of it, the new stuff.
Yeah.
And that was obviously rejected, and we even had old schoolers pole jumping the pole and all this stuff. Again, perfectly valid. So I think that probably the biggest thing we should have paid attention to was that weapon diversity was going to change the combat meta. If it does that, it needs to do it for everything rather than for something, for half of it, because it causes problems if you do it piecemeal. But anyway, yeah. So we then brought out the 28, and it's weird because the feedback. I mean, players are probably going to point out that I'm wrong on this, but the feedback was so fixated on how incomplete it was. There wasn't as much feedback on how it wasn't doing the diversity aim that it set out to do. There wasn't so much of that feedback. And so then when we got to the second beta, that feedback suddenly kind of came up and bubbled up.
Right.
And we were like, well, crap, what do we do?
Yeah, because I know the first thing I heard from my PVM friends on that, I don't PVM, was that it just adds an extra switch to it, and it's really not diversifying anything for me.
You smack on, SwitchScape started coming up a lot. So yeah, we huge credit to the team. The team took me aside, even Mod Timbo, who was the initial designer of it, and said, look, we don't think it's fit for purpose. Which is a very brave thing for the team to do, to be honest. I could just, shout and rave, which isn't very me, but, and yeah, we made the decision that we're going to cancel it. We're going to stop it. Which of course was huge. I think it was the right decision. I think it was a wrong decision to kick it off in the first place, but it was the right decision at the time. So there you go. You've just swallowed probably about 3 months of development work.
That got cancelled, and we didn't have anything to arrive from it.
Not a single thing came out of that. So at this point, when we cancelled it, if we rewind a bit, we had already postponed desperate measures.
Okay, so that was supposed to be the quest. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, that was meant to come out probably around August time, I think it was.
Okay.
So the resource was swallowed up by weapon diversity and a slightly expanded bank placeholders, really. And at this time, farming and herb lore was kicking off, really kicking off. Like it was kind of mid-development. And, we would... I think that the kind of real trigger moment for me where farming and herb lore suddenly became a lot bigger than we had planned was that kind of Land Out of Time Anachronia fallout.
Okay.
Not many people were, sorry, how to put this? Not as many people were playing it as we'd hoped. I think it was more niche in what it was trying to do. It's quite high level, which is, it's a good thing. It only really added to 2 or 3 skills, which I think, again, is a good thing. But it just meant that not everybody was playing it all the time. Again, I think that can be a good thing. But from a kind of, there was a lot of worry internally. And that just made farming and herb lore, we had to make sure that was good, that was right. And of course, then all this sentiment started bubbling up that at that time, and it became clear that we couldn't do a lean farming and herb lore. It had to be packed. It had to do everything right. The Slayer to 120 didn't. It needed to just be complete. It couldn't have any bugs because we were also getting a lot of kind of comments about the bugs at the time. I don't know if you remember a number of the updates.
Sigils.
Sigils is the big one.
Yeah, absolutely. And so all of this was kind of like, a lot of the focus is on farming and herb lore, and they're getting right. So rather than keeping that lean, we decided to make sure that was good and full. But yeah, as I mentioned on the live stream, I think the best analogy I've got to visualize this is like a bit of play tectonics. Land Out of Time came out and we were pushing everything else was being delayed or not released. And on the other end, the bigger updates were becoming bigger and going out later on in the year. And it just kept on pushing and creating this gap in the middle.
Dennis, do you have any idea the different discussion we would have been having on the show had we had desperate measures and, say, a bank rework sooner or the weapon diversity project? Can you imagine the different discussion we would have had those months?
Oh, you would have been totally, you would have been just happy as a clam.
You can watch full episodes of RSBANDB Update right here on this YouTube channel. You can also listen to audio versions of RSBANDB Update at update.rsbnb.com, and feel free to subscribe to our show on any number of podcast listeners out there at update.rsbnb.com/subscribe.